The retreat of the Red Army's southwest front had ballooned into a full-scale catastrophe, a chaotic stampede laced with the raw terror of utter rout, as soldiers discarded weapons and fled in disarray across the dust-choked steppes, their once proud formations dissolving like mist under a scorching sun. Stalin's vaunted Marshal Budyonny, the Bolshevik icon festooned with laurels for his dashing cavalry charges during the brutal Civil War, where he had thundered across frozen tundras and blood-soaked plains to crush White Guard remnants, now revealed himself as a woefully inept tactician, a fumbling amateur whose blunders cascaded into catastrophic defeats, mirroring the dismal failures of his northern counterpart, Marshal Timoshenko, the stern-faced commander of the Russian Central Army Group, whose rigid strategies crumbled against our relentless armored thrusts, leaving vast swaths of territory exposed and his troops in demoralized fragments. By the next morning, our vanguard had already pierced the ragged outskirts of Kherson, the ancient port city sprawling along the Dnieper's languid bend like a weary sentinel guarding the Black Sea's gateway, its minarets and onion domes silhouetted against a sky heavy with the acrid pall of distant conflagrations. A colossal enemy artillery barrage thundered incessantly, a symphony of destruction amplified by the deep, resonant booms of naval guns from the Black Sea Fleet, those ironclad leviathans lurking offshore, their massive 12-inch barrels belching fire in futile rage. But their salvos veered erratically, plummeting harmlessly far to our left into empty fields and splintered orchards, inflicting scant damage beyond the psychological sting of near misses that showered us with clods of fertile black soil and splintered timber. In the ramshackle railway station, a ghostly train sat immobilized on rusting sidings, its flat cars groaning under the weight of brand-new Soviet T-34 tanks, their angular hulls gleaming dully in the dawnlight, engines cold and silent, fated to rust as inert monuments to Bolshevik industrial hubris, never to roar into battle against the panzers that had outmaneuvered them. Our commander, a grizzled veteran with a furrowed brow etched by countless dawn assaults, paced indecisively amid the crackle of radio static and the low murmur of aides consulting crumpled maps, weighing the perils of a frontal thrust into the urban labyrinth where shadows could conceal snipers or booby-trap cellars. Fires raged unchecked throughout the town, voracious blazes devouring timber-framed warehouses and thatched-roof homes, their orange tongues licking skyward in billowing pyres of smoke that carried the sharp tang of burning pitch and cordite, while the staccato roars of exploding ammunition dumps echoed like thunderclaps, sending plumes of debris arcing high before raining down in lethal confetti. At last, the young liaison officer from Styria, a lanky, eager-faced lieutenant fresh from alpine pastures, his uniform still crisp despite the dust, received crisp orders to reconnoiter the sector nearest our lines, the labyrinthine alleys where the Dnieper's humid breath mingled with the scent of scorched earth. He summoned me via the field phone's tinny buzz, his voice crackling with urgency. "I want you to come along. Your eyes might spot what mine miss in this haze." Our sidecar motorcycle snarled to life with a throaty growl, its engine's vibration thrumming through our bones as we tore through the eerily empty streets, potholed avenues lined with shuttered facades and overturned carts abandoned in haste, the air thick with a metallic bite of gunpowder and the faint, underlying rot of uncollected refuse. No trace of the enemy lingered, no scuffed boot prints in the dust, no discarded cigarette but smoldering in gutters, save for the sporadic silhouettes of a few buildings engulfed in flames, their wooden beams collapsing in showers of embers that danced like fireflies against the overcast sky. Swinging sharply around a blind corner, tires screeching on cracked cobblestones, we nearly collided with a frightened civilian, a stooped, wild-eyed man in threadbare linen, his face gaunt from ration scraps, bolting for the dubious sanctuary of the nearest house, his arms flailing like a cornered animal. "Ste! Ste!" the lieutenant barked in halting German, freezing him mid-stride, his body rigid as if petrified by Medusa's gaze that I dismounted with deliberate calm, boots crunching on shattered glass, and approached, cobbling together my rudimentary soldier's Russian, phrases gleaned from dog-eared phrasebooks and battlefield pidgin. "No Reds here? We're enemies." He shook his head vigorously, eyes darting like a trapped hare's. "No more Bolsheviks in this quarter. Gone, all gone." Then, his fear cracking into a sly, gap-toothed grin at the mention of shops, wine, schnapps, he jabbed a calloused finger eastward. Oh yes, over there, first right, round the corner, the big red house. NKVD supply room for whole city, booze plenty. The young Unterführer wasted no time, his boyish face alight with mischief. If we can't bag the old man any prisoners, at least let's snag him a bottle of vino. Come on, let's press on, fortune favors the bold. We spotted the building instantly. A squat, crimson brick edifice with iron-barred windows and a faded hammer and sickle etched above the portal, its driveway yawning open like a careless invitation. We plunged straight in, the motorcycle's growl echoing off the walls, and our hearts seized in our chests like clenched fists. The cramped courtyard teemed with Red Army men, 40 or 50 strong, a ragged phalanx of weary conscripts in mud-caked greatcoats, their Mosin-Nagants slung low and PPSH submachine guns cradled like talismans, faces hollowed by exhaustion and the gnawing doubt of defeat. The driveway's narrow confines trapped us like rats in a snare. No room for the driver to execute a frantic three-point turn without scraping sparks from the walls. The Unterführer snapped his MP40 to his shoulder in a fluid arc, the bolt clacking ominously, while the Reds stood transfixed, a frozen tableau of surprise, their fingers twitching near triggers, but held in check by the shock of our audacity. I slid from the sidecar, pulse hammering like a tripwire in my temples, and mustered every scrap of Russian I possessed, striding toward the nearest soldier, a stocky Siberian with a frostbitten nose and eyes like chipped flint. You want cigarettes? German cigarettes, best, strong, no ration. I extended a full pack, the crinkle of cellophane cutting the tension like a knife. Their faces ignited in unanimous beams, a chorus of duh rippling through the group as we struck matches, the acrid flare of tobacco blooming in the dim courtyard, blue smoke curling upward in tentative olive branches. From the corner of my eye, I glimpsed the Unterführer edging his submachine gun, his free hand gesturing urgently to the driver for a slow pivot, the engine idling in a low, predatory purr. My heart still thudded like a war drum, but I pressed on, voice steady. Walker put Stalin. No good for Russia, Lies, hunger, chains. Heads nodded in solemn accord, grins widening like cracks in parched earth. One burly private, his uniform patched with crude stitches, proffered a dented mess tin brimming with ruby red wine, its bouquet rich with fermented grapes and a hint of oak. I sipped deeply, the tart warmth uncoiling in my throat like a forbidden elixir, then passed the remainder to the Unterführer, who sampled it with theatrical flair. Good God, he chuckled, composure flooding back like tidewater, his tension ebbing into mirth. Now quite calm. Where the devil did that ambrosia hail from? I queried my impromptu Russian allies, who erupted in chuckles, jabbing thumbs toward the yawning maw of the basement entrance, a black void exhaling cool, musty air laced with a yeasty promise of cellared vintages. After a fleeting glance at my comrades, still coiled like springs, I descended, trailing 3 or 4 Reds into the Stygian gloom, emotions a whirlwind of trepidation and thrill, the stone steps slick underfoot with condensation, a horde crammed in behind, strikes of matches casting jittery shadows on vaulted ceilings as they illuminated the cavernous cellar, already knee-deep in splintered casks and puddles of spilled vino that gleamed like spilled blood under the flickering light. I jabbed at the smallest barrel, its oak staves swollen and fragrant. My helpers, faces alight with conspiratorial glee, rolled it forth with grunts of effort, maneuvering it up the ramp into daylight where it thudded onto the motorcycle's frame, the frame creaking in protest under the unwieldy burden, springs compressing with a metallic whine that I scarcely had breath to signal the Reds to stack their arms in knee piles, rifles clattering like surrendered souls, and rasp, "We'll return soon, friends." Now, before we rocketed away, wind whipping through our hair as we raced back through streets where flames gnawed at eaves and the air shimmered with heat haze. The commander had barely clasped the cask, his calloused hands tracing its curves with appreciative reverence, when the general assault order crackled over the ether, horns blaring and engines revving in unison. Mere minutes later, our lads dove into the merry toil of broaching NKVD hordes, crowbars prying lids amid laughter and toasts, the Russians pitching in with eager shoulders, their defections sealed in crimson libations. Those vintners of fortune were duly folded into our companies and battalion trains as volunteers, their loyalty forged in that improbable courtyard. That wine had indeed wrought miracles, turning foes to kin in a single, boozy epiphany. Kherson marked our inaugural true port in the vast Soviet expanse, a bustling nexus where the Dnieper's muddy torrent kissed the Black Sea's salted embrace, its quays lined with weathered cranes and barnacle-crusted warehouses groaning under sacks of grain and coiled ropes thick as pythons. Hitherto, our odyssey had skimmed mere hamlets and provincial burgs, transient way stations we had blitzkrieged or brawled through in the whirlwind of maneuvers, leaving behind smoldering husks and fleeting memories of wary stares. Here, a Novorussia unveiled itself in layers, the populace, initially cloaked in cautious reserve, their eyes shadowed by decades of denunciations and purges, thawed to invariably cordial warmth, unshackled from the suffocating yoke of political commissars who, as defeat loomed like a gathering storm, had devolved into shrieking lunatics, pistols waving wildly in paranoid frenzies, executing imagined traitors amid the rubble. In the town's heart, amid bazaars redolent of spices and sun-ripened fruits, it was the multitude of small children, wide-eyed urchins with dirt-smudged cheeks and threadbare smocks, who bridged the chasm first, their tentative smiles blooming under our rough overtures. Sugar, that crystalline luxury, even in this bountiful South, where orchards sagged with plums and vines dripped with juice, proved the swiftest ambassador, bartered from our packs for peals of laughter and sticky-fingered gratitude, weaving bonds in the blink of an eye. The girls, demure blossoms in faded kerchiefs, extended friendliness with a propriety honed by communal edicts, chased greetings over garden fences, shared recipes whispered like secrets. Yet their approach remained a delicate dance, veiling deeper yearnings beneath layers of decorum. My inaugural encounter unfolded with an elderly woman, her silver hair coiled in a babushka and frame stooped by toils untold, who astonished me by unleashing fluent German, her accent rolling like Volga waves. Hailing from one of the ethnic German enclaves along the Great River, those Volga settlements planted by Catherine's edict, now faded echoes of Swabian hearts, she seized the chance for unfettered converse, her voice a torrent pent long by suspicion. Elated to bridge tongues, I extended an invitation to our billets that evening, a modest affair in a commandeered izba. She assented with hesitant grace, her gnarled hands twisting a shawl's fringe. My quarters, shared with two comrades in the hollow shell of an abandoned room, its walls papered in peeling florals. Prior tenants fled pell-mell across the Dnieper ahead of our panzer spearheads, offered scant comfort beyond a flickering kerosene lamp and threadbare pallets. What should I tell you? The old woman commenced with ritualistic gravity, after savoring her inaugural cup of tea, its steam curling like incense in the chill air, her eyes distant as if plumbing ancestral depths. You wouldn't fathom it anyway. The Russians have ever danced to peculiar rhythms, laws woven from enigmas other folk scarce comprehend. Nothing lingers half-spoken or unresolved if mortal hands can mend it. The Russian soul delves ceaselessly, burrowing to the marrow of all mysteries, unearthing roots that twist through epochs. It rang true, that inexorable probing, from Tsarist serfdom's iron fetters to Bolshevism's velvet-gloved tyranny, amplified tenfold since Lenin alchemized the French triad of liberty, equality, fraternity into a crimson gospel laced with barbed wire. But since you press so earnestly, she conceded with a sigh like wind through reeds, perhaps a tale best illuminates the abyss. As alas, I forged unbreakable bonds with a Marseillaise clan surnamed Laval. Pierre, the patriarch, helmed an import-export venture in Odessa's teeming docks, bartering silks and spices amid the Black Sea's briny fog. Destined for Odessa's premier finishing school, its halls echoing with French airs and deportment drills, I chanced upon his bride, Marguerite, a decade my senior, her elegance a beacon of poise amid the city's polyglot clamor. Our friendship blossomed like hothouse orchids, confidences exchanged over embroidered linens and absinthe-lace chats. Then descended the inferno of summer 1919, disintegrating Czech squadrons, those far-flung legionnaires, their bayonets dulled by Siberian treks. Alongside the Tsarist line regiment's tattered survivors, reeled and disciplined, yet desperate retrograde toward Odessa's fortified quays, encircled by Budyonny's Red Cavalry. A whirlwind of sabers and lances hurtling in inexorable assaults that shredded white detachments like chaff in a gale. International force officers, French above all, their kepis askew in frenzy, seized every vessel in harbor, from barnacled dreadnoughts to sleek motor launches, gorging holds with pilfered coal, diesel, and victuals scraped from godowns, then herding troops aboard in frantic scrambles up gangplanks slick with sweat and desperation. Trailing them, red artillery lobbed shells into Odessa's labyrinthine streets, cobblestone veins pulsing with panic, goading the white horde to frenzied exodus, boots pounding in thunderous retreat. Swiftly, red infantrymen overran vestigial resistance, storming the city's forsaken bastions in a tide of bayonets and Bolshevik fervor. Thus ignited the Cheka's reign of terror, a sanguinary orgy where volleys felled unfortunates in courtyard massacres, the crack of Tokarevs mingling with pleas and the wet thud of crumpling forms. Executions dragged days long, yet the influx of counter-revolutionaries, flooding gates like rats to a sinking ship, overwhelmed even the commissar's zeal, their ledgers drowning in condemnations. Resourceful in atrocity, Chekis crammed victims aboard 3 derelict merchantmen, hulks deemed unseaworthy, their timbers groaning like the damned, hauling them leagues offshore for nautical gallows. White officers in epaulette stiff with pride, black-robed priests clutching crucifixes, kulak functionaries and anti-red laborers slash peons bound in dyads, heaved alive into the inky abyss, splashes echoing as final sacraments. Corpses bobbed stubbornly, tide-borne revenants washing harborside, mocking the purge. Subsequent voyages weighted human parcels with iron manacles, sinking them to silted tombs. In the maelstrom, Pierre Laval, stranded with wife and progeny amid indiscriminate sweeps, tumbled into Cheka clutches, his frantic oaths of apolitical neutrality and brandished French passport feudal shields. Ere-kin pierced commissarial veils, he boarded a death bark, consigned to the deep with the multitude. Bereft Marguerite, unyielding as granite, besieged the Red Constabulary until shame-faced Soviets yielded retrieval writs from senior Chekists, eased by her spouse's murder in pristine white linen, a spectral beacon amid the murk that a resplendent late summer morn dawned, azure skies mocking the grief as Madame Laval stood mute beside diver Grigory Ivanovich, the diminutive launch chugging toward anchored sepulchres, their masts skeletal against the horizon. 11 o'clock tolled air swells lulled for descent. Pumps chugged rhythmic hymns as Marguerite riveted gaze to the diver's vanishing ripple, the crimson officer's chronometer ticking doom. Precisely 3 minutes. Twin distress yanks, crew yanking Grigory aboard, visibly enscathed, yet unscrewing helm unveiled lifeless eyes, foam-flecked lips. Boatmen gaped dumbstruck round the corpse. Post-feudal resuscitations, the officer intoned. Unforeseen mishap, madam, we've honored your plea. Not more avails. No second diver, she pressed, voice steel. Sailors recoiled. 10,000 rubles to reclaim my husband's form, rippled debate. Swiftly, the Française honors wagers, the officer urged. The stoker, visage mask-like, doffed the sodden suit sans utterance, plunging overboard. Concentric ripples and bubble trails charted resolute path to yesterday's necropolis. Marguerite fixated seaward. Kronos ticked anew. Despairing tug shattered stasis. Crew hauled the thrashing firemen, limbs flailing maniacal, helm unbuckling to spew crimson froth from orifices. Madness, the officer bellowed. 10,000, the Georgian wailed. Legions ambulatory, on seabed, priests, boyars, generals, ranks unending. Ravings subsided tardily. Gossip metastasized. Comrade, hospital seer beheld them. Upright priests, tresses akimbo, arms aloft, anathematizing realm and us. The spectral Congress winged house to house, infiltrating barracks, death row cells, proletariat warrens, crooked alleys. Dusk birthed seditious murmurs gainst crimson hierarchs. Morn erupted in dockyard strike and mutiny, proletarian fists aloft. Cheka General Commissar careened in bellowing. Cadaver static, irons anchor, buoyancy's 3-day urge. Resume toil. Curses from the drowned, hex on berg, kin whelps you fiends, a crone shrilled. Throng bayed. Rifle muzzles menaced, disperse or stones. Hurlings defied, gauntlet rose. Leather-clad salute boomed. Haze dissipated into harbor's vertiginous defile, plaza void, commissar hastening o'er pavements strewn with forms to his auto. Silence cloaked us. The crone drained her cup, mute as sphinx. We marched to unshackle Russia's folk, I interjected hastily, from scarlet bondage, life's absurdity. Enigmatic smile creased her. My final spouse, a Mennonite prenuptials, envisioned salvation's dawn, universal Russian reverie, creed transcending. Yet tempests mirrored ours, fusillades, nooses, exiles, post 2 decades penal drudgery. He perished dreamless, atrocities unabated. We shall redeem them. I insisted, fervor kindling. Rising she murmured, gratitude, youths for elders' grace. Ere parting, verity profound. Not cannon's roar nor spirit's blaze redeems, but the man. We lingered round samovar's glow, till midnight's hush. Dawn unveiled foes perch in herbs folds. Black Sea dreadnoughts and Isle batteries in Dnieper sprawl pelted HQ edifices with surgical spite. Shells shrieking, like banshees, to crater boulevards and geysers of masonry. Domiciles partitioned, combed methodically. Harbor apartments, Jewish kins especially. Hoarded provender and bolts of wool/silk in stark antithesis to prole hovel's barren want. Larders echoing void. Per edict stern, combatants seized not. No dragnet sprung. Anti-commune militia, local sinewy ire, ease sweeps. There's the coup-nabbing pigeon-wielder, his aviary betraying fire's vectors. Morrow, harbor's fringe-birthed grotesque parade. 5 Teuton constables, town guards cluster, parading shackled white. Johnny stride belying doom, placard bilingual. I orchestrated Soviet barges on Kherson, slayer of 63 Russian damsels, /infants plus Teuton slain. For this, noose beckons this eve. Crowd surge devouring script, receding for successors. An elder mujik, literate labored, earned recital from convicts relish. I, 'tis I. Well earned, rustic retorted chill. Commissars consigned infernal joy. Visage unaltered, return they shall. Peasant blanched, cross-traced. Dames echoed. Swift dispatch divine, rustic proffered fag, accepted fettered. Sunset, red avowed. Onward we gawked adrift. Was Volga Teuton's lore veridical, Rus laws aberrant? Return to Bereznegat and Kalmanet's environs for respite and rearmament. Reich neophytes plugged ranks hemorrhages, birthing dysentery's scourge overnight. Hospitals bloated, cots overflowed in fevered throngs. Foremost victim. Coal, absent moons since battalion shuffle, griping viscera's torment, pallor ghostly, frame skeletal. Yarn spun, I recounted Volga crone's colloquy. Perhaps veracious, cold drawled languid, indisputable. Crimson ventures consummate, deceit or demise, ironclad, steely veritable, whilst we dally half-hearted. Sly glance, metamorphosis, veiled them. Days blurred in slumber repast, imbibing. Wehrmacht bulletins, trumpeted triumphs kaleidoscopic. Dysentery burgeoned, day trippers regressed, horror tales spilling. Straw pallet soul, no ewers. Helmets, halved ablutions. Morn, eyed orger fondly. Hail harbinger. Ban, raw aqua, melons foreboding. Lull shattered, offensive reignited, Dnieper bound. Nearing fluvial titan eve first. Malaise struck, I dismounted. Rejoined column snarl at Borislav's pontoon with travail. Bowels betraying thrice fourfold. Brow fevered, shivers racking. Spies bridged, tidings? Coal interred. Pulse faltered. Follow-up felled him, cardiac capitulation. Here/gone, Hauptfeldwebel laconic. Vigil, barrage hellish. Bridge crawl, ebb and void. Kilometer thence flares ignited firmament. Bombs cascaded. Flanking immobile convoy. Flax pyrotechnics from banks futile, yet span spared. Morrow hemorrhage sapped. Lazarette's phantasm deterred. Abstinence, thirst tyrannous. Halts, leech proffer charcoal, tannin laudanum, vain. Bliss. Foe fled pell-mell, scant skirmish. Sabbats end, limp as rag. Mid-ordeal. Squad, Cubawagon, duo couriers, probe vanguard to Jan Hamlet's, per cartography. Sunshine-drenched sortie. Route serpentine through verdant bounty. Vines mantling dune flanks. Squad uneasy in grains, ambush depths. Apathy gripped, repose beckon. Balacapanis thatch-pierced arboreal lace. Stealthy ingress, knees aquiver, I queried mute lass. Stonewall. Fury flared, commie spawn, spurned. Neighbor dame, portal-framed, voluble. Reds transited thrice hour prior. Yon horizon. Leisurely traverse. Doles of lacteus/muscus. Averted gaze, intolerable. Bounty redux. Arboreal/viticultural/granary. Secondary berg materialized. Precipitous eruption. Imprudent, unleashed crimson swarm. Rear courier brake squeal, spied khaki, bolted. Tandem trailed. Icy dread, a light, MG elevation languid. Titan Ukrainian eared, war kaput, fini kaput. Grievance, yokels viands denial. Arms stacked pyramidal. Elder summoned nil, thou art, to 60-something, flattered beam. Apt choice. Quinquennial penal for cause rebuff, Bolshevik, bile profound. Sustenance swift for famished, battalion thundered. Presuming charnel, jubilation intact. Fortnight's amoebic siege, radical physic medic vowed. Castor copious. Endure chum. Entourage asides. Fail fatal, post me, palliative. Gin flagon guzzled, stupor engulfed, hours oblivion. Revival, ameliorated. Crust soul days, restoration. Equi nostrum? Protozoa spurned spirits, unlike I. Cheka's van, Ivan entrenched undulant ridge. Assault aborted. Absent tubes/armor. Crepuscule. Quartet dames petition CO, redivivus commissariat. Elite cook scullion. Apprehended taciturn. Culinary behest soul, oblivious else. Confronted confreres. Pandemonium. CO ire. Incarceration nocturnal. Dusk. Duo Odessatars, armament complete. Sated, segregated with she-devil. Dawn Matlow's griped. Tattooed roué railed indignity. She lambasted treason, patria's perfidy. Interpreter relayed. Reprise inquisition. Insolence sealed sepulcher. Firing squad. Runners evaporated. Quartermasters conscripted. Fresh from ordnance. Ukraine's revisited CO. Garb gleanings? Dismissed redux with 100k rubles. Duo charts. Positions precise. From cadavers corsetry. Aurora. Stuka stooped, pulverized foe stasis. Post-departure, barrage bracketed us. 105's tardy PM. Resumption, evicted crimson. Peninsula plunged seaward, Cubal vanguard, augmented. Liaison/linguist. Couriers trailed. Thicket dense, literal dunes North Sea kin. Hedges hem trace. Millet/granary/cops. Lethality latent, triggers taut. Hamlets heralded, crone queried. Nema, extinct hours quad. Crimson fiends. Clear, courier rearward, profundity probed. Verdure thickened, sylvan abutment. Unmarked rail, purchase primed, anticipation acrid. Hind rider centimeters, survivor surety. Nil. Hamlets evacuated, Sabbath-clad denizens. Dames/tots mud hut queued. Waving/hailing hours. Tremor-handed ancien, proffered megaloaf. Acceptance, elicited swoon. Floral avalanches multicolored, unbidden, perilous. Stray reds reprisal lethal. Blooms, blood price. Melomounds, ovate/raisin surfeit. Battalion coalesced, gloaming. Fusillades flanked. Rat-a-tat salutes. Pedal procession concluded. Brine zephyr. Haze horizon. Pontus Euxinus attained. 16th platoons van to pint-sized haven. Reds frantic. Shards embarking. Step traverse. Structures slow-stalked. Shots spark imminent. Intense vigilant. Vehicle/PK/flak. Stasis. Wretches yielded gleefully. Neophytes, famished days. Alight, sidearms vigilant. Piscatory poilus purged. Offshore rumbles, initially literal. Stuka opus. Overhead instant. Circumnavigate. Stoop, geyser colossal. Caesura, thunderclap. Plate/planks/gears/mortals vaulted. T-34 analog eviscerated. Ammos patter faded. Bis reprise, terminus triumphant. Man/machina/science succumbed. Quay flotsam, smoldering sloop. Steamers pyre spark showers. Offshore detonations recurrent. Evacuations vain. Rustic gestured mast/hulks. None pierced. Literal detritus. Lorries/abandoned ordnance. Securing swift. Tubes ascended. Sweeps sanitized. Stragglers surrendered sand strife. Stroll recruit ward. Meshes/tackle archaic. Yard concealed pack. Intact breach. Youth tinkered. CO's staffer neared. Crash cataclysmic. Chambered round inadvertent. Road ward worse. salvo-showered commandeur's trace, soil/shrapnel sleet, miracle unscathed. Blink, vanished throng amid, probe protracted duo diurnals, mutual zipped, ocular wake soul. Nocturne, crepuscule stepside, serene bar sees pyre glow. Mandate Crimean, Paracop contested, Panzerkin, foiled. Literal Melitopol, Mariupol ward. Morrow, sunflower sea sanguinary, aureate ripeness, thunder veiled. Over, sun softened, gossamer spun blackthorn morn to golden ocean, pyre glare deepened. Crepuscule near, sunset sanguine shafts seed discs crowned, avian nip bounty final, pinions paled afar, solitude wind-wafted blooms. Tranquility cherished, inaugural cracks/craters rekindled fever primal, neophyte, dread effaced, dire exigency, soul, unease. Primer's incantation, obscurity's portal, apocalypse incarnate, prelude coveted. Vespers, hush harborage arcane. Diurnal terminus, frond rustle windbowed, field vast, faux fossey/trenches maternal Ukraine's loam-lapped. Debris detritus, grenade/helmets/masks litter. Adversaries accurl undulations assault scoured. Maxim muted, crew cowed commissar coercion. Mortar mischief maker, sunflower shrouded, orphaned foxhole flank, Kalmuck coterie contiguous. Our staccato sat well. Metric mortality, ubiquitous bloomside. Outposts entrenched Russ, Bloom's barrier triune. PK/2 cm flak submerged John. Thanatos throned, Scarlet spiked. Allied, John canopy. Trench edge vigil. Crimson riposte. Smoke tendril hillock. Hamlet holocaust. Foe, dilatory. Sunflowers, juvenilias amare, slender/graceful/potent. Debut chamber. Juvenile clip periodical, vitrined. Bedloft talisman. Somnia inaugural thereunder. Artisans inaugural. Petite sunburst. Juventus/maturity amalgam. Whimsy singular. Generositas, maternal teams. Ukrainal premier's homeland/harrow hail. Harvest hegemony plains/undulations, seaman polymath. Inevitable rapture till stems sprung scythe, ranks rent. Amici's perfidy till tutelage. Floret's fatal. Diurnal foe knocked ours, John shelter alternate. Floral fray, veridical. Query, post-mortem, Bloom's bereft bellicosity? Pax prevailed. Luna pallid waxen, deluge John torrent. Alien serenity, sanctum strange. Aurora saluted sentries/lines. Beryl glint expunged yesteryear. Graveside blooms momentary. Interim. Mariupol mutiny other echelons. Wake amaze transit. Tank forge Titanic. Civic cinder days post. Ars Tagon rock terminus. Crimson Avia, erst farce. Ordnance oblique. Ratsfeld small arms. Personnel/contraptions, subpar panzer/foot. Quip. Cranial crimson cataclysm, self-inflicted folly. Aerial orthogonal soul, vein for interceptors/bombers, Iden prelapse. Mariupol tug-and-rock, rude reminder, aurora crepuscule ceaseless. Vanguard harried centuries. Bombs bass/baritone, auricular assault. Nocturnal shovelfuls, resting ranks. Improvised armada scansomatic. Nerves neuralgia chronic, pyrotechnics pallid protracted. Vespertine, tegula o'erhead. Casement shards quaked remote rumbles. Duo dormient profound/serene. I vigilant lunar vigil. Orient eternal, foe fractured. Cubal lag mechanical malaise. Overtaking Teuton torrent tardy. Chauffeur Wilhelm content solstitial stare. Flak phalanx precede. Roulades relance. Blink, avant cannon braked, muzzle meridional. Yelp coincident first falls roadside. Radar ambush, engine din drowned. Leap loam. Ancient abode adjacent, palisade vault, prone parape. Trio instantaneous, stranger adjunct. Locution latent, terrestrial gusher, rafter/wall wreckage sequel, domicile devastated. Instinctive, erectus, vociferation via gunfire, circumambulate. Wilhelm propelled, alien adherent. Huddled hypotenuse, adjacency urged, oblivion next novi. Duodecim minimi, IL-2s, improvised rearguard. Proximal, corporeal elevation. Vociferation Wilhelm. Obscurity opaque, grown proximate, sanitary. Wilhelm vociferated vapor, leech on route, prognosis null, transfixion dorsal/pectoral. Bombs distal centum, impotent prairie. Epiphany, prior prone precise, meter maison angle salvific. Blood, Wilhelm noted. Cervical laceration trivial. Centimeter cataclysm. Moribund met gaze. Uni serious / soul burnt. Intuitus. Proclined, capillarity, correct sweat-soaked, grin. Unit mates minister. Adjacency remorse, proximity proximate. Trepid egress, vehicular reprise, celerity, serene. Equine errance, terror trampled pratum. Night blush trembling. Bubulus blundered obscurity, snorting. Lactation languished. Panzer percussion nocturnal. Progress persistent, oppression palliation. Roadside relic revelation. Solidarity supinous. Adjacency inutile, sinister scythe, successor scaffold. Hind dextral, forward fatal. Militia momentum mutatis, bell / sepulchrum spurned. Aura undulating undulation, frigus fasciculi, domicile re-entry. Sleep tank tread / torrent tormentandum, pains palpitant leniter. Dawn, corpus principal via, flankers foragers, visual vigilant. Literal low, trace tenuous, translucence triumph. Sinistral sapphire surges sandbar foam, wheels rinsed. Dexter autumnal longaria fisherman / dockhand, argent filaments transversed. Berg beset, primitive Teutons, Wilhelm Hanoverian holographs, house / kind. Iorbicular curiosity. Youth tossed, gesticulated photo / fringe broken. Tears, silent feet. Labor livery lacerate, broken cross. Smoke 2, slow distant, boy Alvahan. Solitary Teutonic, night does not follow. 2 alone, imperiality looming, faith broken, truth seen. Hill slope, garish gable, grandmother academy, sound dim, crescendo, fortissimo Tchaikovsky. Entrance obscure auditorium / refectorium. Exterior flax scourges, ratter phantoms pontifical. Pianist languishes middle oblivious, curves keys, immersed melody. Sight vibrated. Nicho, gentleness. Merci, monsieur, piano Ian's absent miracle. I heard, stepping out fingerstep. Corridor. Trio of trainees, all pitch Lenin, eternal fighter. Conspiring, rapture, crepitus escalade. Trembling temerity. Silence, cinematograph Tchaikovsky continuous, robust. Rearward, pyre pour oil ablaze rust fired. Regroup route enemy incursion. Flag of victory. Vehicles vortices. Azov Azure adjacent, northern sinuous, fields of reeds. Sunflower submergence, wheat fluctuating, faux frontal. Night opaque, straw roofs, spectral shadows. Daytime finally, dawn dusk sunflower submersion, cast concealing phantasmagoria. Dexter / sinister vanished leaves, alone everywhere / nowhere. Siberian savage death sprevs, corpses cornucopia, golden halo. Evening resistance subsided, sporadic hisses, sepulchral silence. Vain, vocal wounds. 30 meters of house outlined in darkness. Door waving breeze, forest superstition, evidently evacuated. West Panzer creaking, under nocturnal shadow. Suddenly, right white ball set sky ablaze, pyrotechnics, circling phantasms of birth. Monk's martinet bomb 24, vanished, village empty. Gunner law, defile we fall. Section guide devotion machine crackle. Creeping guns security loose, wooden fence. 9 prone, nothing, door again. Front approach rushing, twisting. Lickness shines, empty boxes / chests, loose beds. Parchment pavement old age, evanescent effigies, dirt of lots. Fleeing fragments. Exterior pace of next progress. Guide led. Village rest of night, daytime fighting. The rest leave marshy meadows for protection. Cleaning by functionary brooms. Prone mud crushed, sudden sleep. I stop, a distant groan, frivolous fatigue. Later, the full moon pours pallor. Thoughts gather, Francis next, Charles beyond. The village defeated, Ivan emptied in the evening. A squeak near watchful. A kitten white fist-sized, mewling solitary. More charming, escaped, the door returned howling. I rise stiff follow. The garden escapes, the fence stops, the sunflower groans sharply. I approach static. Beneath the flower a gaunt cat, a skull burned to pieces. The kitten walks around, tries, stops, shows me. Knee bent, cut, the emaciated end. Prolonged evacuation. The matrons serve crumbs. Concept. I search the bag, slow sausages, opening the spike, the kitten's nostrils. A doubtful smell, a predatory raven. Content contemplating. Steps near. The guide across the fence, watching silently. The grass approaches silently. Confused I rise, judgment due, whispering, sleep. Home tired, defeated, empty, sleep. The sound of a broomstick playing with bile. Morning. The leader enters, heartbroken, silent. Orders. The death of the world. The village is sectioned by a shell-rent road. A white figure in the middle of the tailed. The steps follow. The attack hour is always peaceful quiet, lacking internal peace. For a minute death lurks in the infinite grain/sunflowers. The 18th 4th Regiment command attacks, broken silence, the applause of scarlet hulls. Finally a fatal glance. The Bolshevik barrage withers the sector. MG crowd crushed, oaths. The Obersturmführer, a fragment of his leg, pulled out naked, erect limping. The attack enters. The return of hell from the trenches of men high. All the torment rain, bold staggers, soon looking down on the undulating grain, perfect crimson camouflage. Bolshevik golden helmets rise, a roar of fire, more deadly than Mars, a prey armed with a plunderer. Man death face to face with grain. Middle. Soviet rises, throwing down his German helmet. They yield. They are broken. Weapons lowered, advancing. Obersturmführer watches. Fall. A limping, deserter faces. Double Russian machine belches. A veil of wounds. Inexorable anger. An implacable attack, almost cunning. Bitter battle. Teutons erect grain. Soviets crouching in pits, fire exhausted. At the right time, 2 assault guns of the 18th stretch, fierce fury advance. One chest pierced, Understurmführer seen, prone, bandage broken, tying begun. A hidden robber stabs the head of the middle mercy. Insurmountable anger. Neither fire nor deceit deflects. The hill is captured. One sign to the rising Russian grain, a friendly smile, a step, a hidden grenade thrown. A German prostrates himself under the grain. A brother fixes the wounding. Again beckon. A nervous smile, a submental grenade, disappears. Later captured. The last regimental commissar, 2 days cut off. Not all commissars are stubborn, servants thrown away. Sometimes civilian clothes are packed, tunics, shoes, ties, caps, perplexity, until a bitter prisoner says, everyone has prepared a secret, a case of bad escape. Following Stalin's commissars, the last drop of blood, Ivan, where is mine? The sun rays hill 180, the morning breeze of the grain bends, 18th Vigil River, blocking the deadly trap of the enemy. Incredible. Yesterday the death of the grain passed. We reached the Meuse, fighting house to house in a Russian village with incredible tenacity. Before the city of Taganrog. Russian artillery furious, but few exploded. After hours a miracle. Delayed fuses. Supply columns of the ignorant approaching. Explosions on the sides of the road. Light damage. Meanwhile we almost stopped in the center of the city where the order. Patrol combed the street. Souls scarcely. High buildings silent, threatening, quietly. Entering one, we walked through gardens and courtyards up to the main doors inside opening/breaking quiet way. A little, small garden, low wall we climbed, stunned, palace. Roofs of arrest, 2 wide stone steps we climbed, door not closed, atrium with magnificent carpets. First corner turned around. 2 Tatars chained with sword shield helmet, Taganrog Museum. Slowly through many rooms, intact glass, tables of ancient/modern Russian, paintings on walls looking. Buddha prayer wheels, next to distorted Christ superstition section. Room, toys from antiquity to modern, wooden stone jars to harlequin. 2 we lowered, doll and full doll ruddy hair linen, belt next to grenades. Main doors returned, quiet street, corner, multi-storied working primitive Viennese. Patrol 2 by 2, cautious sides of the street. Suddenly, in the courtyard 100 people of all ages looking hostilely. Machine gunner plants on ground, shell, prepares, bad moment, plan empty. Rudolph understood, retreated running, first with rifle. Fixed childish eye on belt, 6-year-old girl spellbound. I know, with a laugh I offer a ruddy doll. Round eyes wheels, howl of joy, body pressed, Marty tired woman. Doll's second 4-year-old inquisitor. Fact. Children surrounding hands extended, please. Desperately repelling. None everything. Rifle almost lowered. Roar of laughter, around friendly talking, touching uniforms. Offering water to the thirsty tired. Bread pushed. Sudden transformation never seen. No more Bolsheviks. Place clear. 2/3 blocks advanced. Girl still. Shadow of rifles. Doll pressed to heart. Repelling in vain. Everywhere laughing and gesticulating. Sleep late at night. Small incident movement. War remote. In the struggle for power, Bolshevism forgot nothing. Every humanity weakened the yoke. From the intolerable Rasputin of Russia to the incitement of multitudes of beasts. Not millions dying on the fronts for a desperate future, nor at home hungry workers/farmers. Not dreams of better life windows outside Tsar of all Russians select, nor dark passions of soul's subjects. In unhappy moment 1,000 peaceful happy into beasts. Only one forgot, the human heart. Hungry life, myth of common sheep no wolf, to the tormented. Myth of world revolution common cause for living/dying for necessities. Little faith, secret police, labor camps, bullet in the back. But real life, heart, nothing, not unwilling, but unknowing. Deficiency conscious. Warm instincts of heart replace cold logic. Systematic vivisection of past/present/future. Absolute philosophy force. Pseudoscientific title. Materialistic concept of history. Dogma experiment column. Heart unique life link secrets and deep. No place for materialism. A little rages barricades, weeps camps, dies cellars with secrets. Reentry language not understood, heart omitted. Theory of communism, especially everyday life. How otherwise Soviet dead world domination, dream, buried days/centuries in middle towns/villages. How doctors fix wounded often for bandage. Nothing cannot fight. Why treat? In middle Mariupol, camp follower fragment wounded. Sobbing through crowd entering. Begging help from citizens. No one moves, most laugh disheveled hair. German helps without. This sister among comrades exsanguinated. Taganrog. Ukrainian Dnieper duct digging ditches. Middle way harbor to, twice legs perforated, groaning. Thousands passing bandage from looted pharmacy bags. Nothing, except youth's ripped shoes flee. We found him 18 hours, lying on street. Not Bolshevism, forgot nothing. Nothing except the human heart. Taganrog. Our patrol hosted old Ukrainian woman, babushka baptized, and 2 granddaughters. Not a recruit's grandmother, Marushka medical student. Fervently anti-communist. Babushka husband/son/daughter-in-law. Deported Siberia 10 years, labor conspiracy, suspected. Girls friendly joking, yet distant chauffeur. Hope ours so obedient. Babushka once merchant German. Horrific, but intelligible German. Dawn to night on feet. Stockings/clothes washes. Delights in cooking. Military rations abundant shared with family. Home warmth, almost family life. Day, when garrison commander of patrol. Beautiful Muscovite black-haired, 5-year-old daughter. Fleeing Moscow to mother Taganrog. Members of Moscow State Opera. Heard German cabaret singer/pianist asks, I promised inquiries. Tomorrow meeting. Morning. Fat servant swollen affirms singers/performers urgent. Sent. Invited to first tavern. Sad, easily persuaded to hospitality. There we sat hours. In a great name, babushka granddaughters, tea phonograph melody. Home led, mother tea tomorrow, returned. Meeting ridiculous, small town life. In a girl superior dark as mother, Mac never leaves, hours standing guard. Evening, Inna told. Recruit opera youth, Jewish editor Moscow workshop printing joins. Wedding. Stalin, Hitler non-aggression. Husband among deviants political line. Few intimate spoken. 12 hours Siberia. Wife opera unacceptable. Music lessons for food. German Moscow speed. Girl to mother fleeing. Returned politician, not freed. Unreliable element. Much to Inna I.O. Error shows Russian-German cooperation to avoid. Then minor officials' freedoms. Front civil administration deciding. Curfew strict civilians after dusk. No sabotage/partisans then. Soviets often frozen Azov motor/wind sleds cross. Lonely stations attack. City terror scatter with wild rifles. One night pre-12. Knock window. We grab arms open. In a cold/excited, large package. What? I pull inside. Bolsheviks surround Taganrog dawn, all slaughter. Brothers clothes dead to you. Hurry, across Azov Mariupol. Silent. Centurions howl. Garrisons to majors. Laughter. Fucked past. Thanks in a not-so-grave. Sambeck urgent, but line holds. Whether not, comrades not abandon. All or none. All brothers clothes not. With little tears, quiets. Pressure mourning increased. Held. Rare Soviet black value treasures, greater sacrifice. Through centurions' danger or months' treasures. Evening Gregory appeared, frozen Azov red deserter. Squad without hewer. Gregory passable German. Machine expert. Biting cold loading workshops. I platoon leader / cohort leader closes eyes retaining. Gregory 40-year-old middle, taciturn. Work is, vehicles health. Evening hospitality, I led. Tea/vodka tongue loosens. Ukrainians always freedom. History blood / tears. Vast land bear honeycomb. Poles, Turks, Russians. Catherine II systematic Russification. Lithuania / Finland portion. Ukraine. All strip, ethnic language / literature. Great War. Many Paul Skoropadsky hoped, Central Council. Dreams vanished, Bolshevism Moscow seat Ukraine seeks. Germany / Austria collapse. Simon Petlura last freedom. White Denikin Russification over freedom. Divisions red / Ukrainian fight. Lenin minorities rights. Nothing Ukrainians. Ukrainian element parties / army strong after Poles victory. Purge. 10,000 leaders communists / officials / specials only Ukrainians killed. To me, months passed, Germans Ukrainian cohorts none want. Blush, will come calm Gregory. People not on bread / meat live. Flag must. Give Ukrainians never regret. Rose excusing talkativeness. Leaders understand, not looks. Remain thoughtful stayed. We had reached the Meoz River, engaging in brutal house-to-house combat in a Russian village where the tenacity was utterly unbelievable. This was just before the city of Taganrog. The Russian artillery was furious in its barrage, yet only a few shells actually exploded. After what seemed like hours, it turned out to be a miracle of sorts. The fuses were delayed. As the supply columns of the unaware approached, the explosions occurred along the sides of the road, causing only light damage overall. Meanwhile, we had nearly come to a complete halt, positioned in the very center of the city, where the standing order was clear. The patrol must comb the streets thoroughly. There were scarcely any souls left alive, and the high buildings stood silent and quietly threatening all around us. We entered one of them, walking carefully through the overgrown gardens and deserted courtyards until we reached the main doors, which we had to open or break from the inside. The path ahead was eerily quiet. After a short distance, we came upon a small garden with a low wall, which we climbed over, and we were stunned beyond words. It was a palace. The roofs of the surrounding structures were all that remained visible, but we ascended 2 wide stone steps, finding a door that was not closed, leading into an atrium adorned with magnificent carpets that still looked pristine. As we turned around the first corner, our eyes fell upon 2 chain totters equipped with swords, shields, and helmets. This was the Taganrog Museum. We moved slowly through the many rooms, intact glass cases everywhere, tables displaying ancient and modern Russian paintings that gazed out from the walls. A Buddha with prayer wheels stood right next to a distorted depiction of Christ in what seemed to be a superstition section. In one room, we found toys ranging from antiquity to the modern era, wooden and stone jars alongside harlequins frozen in eternal jest. 2 items caught our attention, and we lowered them carefully. A doll and a full-size doll with ruddy linen hair, its belt lying next to a pile of grenades, an absurd juxtaposition. We returned to the main doors, stepping back out onto the quiet street. Around the next corner, we discovered multi-storied working models that appeared to be primitive Viennese contraptions. The patrol moved in pairs, cautious, as we scanned the sides of the street. Suddenly, in a courtyard, 100 people of all ages stared at us with unmistakable hostility. The machine gunner planted his weapon on the ground, loaded a shell, and prepared to fire. It was a bad moment indeed, with no plan in place. Rudolph understood the danger immediately and retreated, running first while clutching his rifle tightly. A fixed childish I locked onto my belt. The 6-year-old girl was utterly spellbound. I knew what to do. With a laugh, I offered her the ruddy doll. Her eyes widened like spinning wheels, and she let out a howl of pure joy, pressing her body against the tired woman named Marty. The doll had been an Inquisitor's tool just 4 years prior, a fact that dawned on me later. But now, the children surrounding us extended their hands in pleas, begging desperately. In a desperate attempt to repel them, I shouted, "Nah," and everything, while almost lowering my rifle. But then came a roar of laughter from the crowd, and they surrounded us in a friendly manner, talking animatedly, touching our uniforms with curiosity, and even offering water to those of us who were thirsty and tired. They pushed bread toward us insistently. That it was a sudden transformation like nothing I had ever seen before. No more Bolsheviks in sight, and the place felt completely clear and safe. We advanced 2 or 3 blocks further. The girl still trailed us, casting shadows from the rifles over her, clutching the doll tightly to her heart. Repelling her was in vain. Everywhere, people were laughing and gesticulating wildly. Sleep came late that night. A small incident of movement kept us alert, though the war felt remote for a brief moment. In the great struggle for power, Bolshevism had forgotten nothing at all. Every trace of humanity was weakened under its yoke. From the intolerable Russia of Rasputin to the incitement of multitudes turned into beasts. Not the millions dying on the fronts for a desperate future, nor the hungry workers and farmers at home. Not the dreams of a better life glimpsed through windows beyond the Tsar of all the Russians and his select few, nor the dark passions of the souls of his subjects. In that one unhappy moment, 1,000 peaceful and happy people were turned into beasts. There was only one thing it had truly forgotten: the human heart. For the hungry, life became a myth of the common flock with no wolves among them. For the tormented, it was the myth of world revolution, a common cause for living and dying in service of the necessities. For those with little faith, it meant secret vigils, labor camps, and a bullet in the back of the head. But real life, the heart itself, nothing, not out of unwillingness, but out of sheer unknowing. This deficiency was conscious. The warm instincts of the heart were replaced by cold logic, a systematic vivisection of the past, present, and future, the force of an absolute philosophy, given the pseudoscientific title of the materialistic conception of history. The dogma became the experimental column. The heart, that unique link of life to secrets and depths, had no place in materialism. A little of it raged at the barricades, wept in the camps, and died in cellars with its secrets intact. Re-entering a language not understood, the heart was omitted, and the theory of communism especially failed in the everyday life of ordinary people. How else could the Soviets, dead to the dream of world domination, be buried for days or centuries in the middle of towns and villages? How could doctors fix the wounded so often just for a bandage, saying, "Nothing, he cannot fight. Why treat him?" In the middle of Mariupol, a camp follower, wounded by a fragment, entered sobbing through the crowd, imploring help from the citizens. No one moved, and most laughed at her disheveled hair. A German helped without hesitation, but this sister among comrades was left exsanguinated. In Taganrog, a Ukrainian from the Dnieper, digging ditches along the middle way to the harbor, had his legs perforated twice. Groaning as thousands passed by, he begged for a bandage from a looted pharmacy. Nothing, except for the youths who ripped off his shoes and fled. We found him 18 hours later, still lying on the street. Bolshevism had not forgotten nothing. It had forgotten nothing except the human heart. In Taganrog, our patrol was hosted by an old Ukrainian woman, whom we baptized Babushka, and her 2 granddaughters, Nada, the grandmother of a recruit, and Marushka, a medical student, both fervently anti-communist. Babushka's husband, son, and daughter-in-law had been deported to Siberia 10 years earlier on suspicion of conspiracy in labor. The girls were friendly and joking, yet kept a certain distance. The chauffeur remarked, "We hope ours are so obedient." Babushka once spoke merchant German, horrific but intelligible. From dawn to night on her feet, she washed stockings and clothes, delighting in the cooking. Military rations were abundant and shared with the family. There was a warmth of home, almost a family life. On the day when the garrison commander of the patrol arrived, a beautiful Muscovite with black hair and a 5-year-old daughter, fleeing Moscow to her mother in Taganrog, members of the Moscow State Opera. Having heard of the German cabaret, the singer and pianist asked for an audience. I promised to make inquiries, arranging a meeting for the next day. In the morning, a fat, swollen servant affirmed that the singers and performers were urgent matters. They were sent along. Invited to the first tavern, she was sad and easily persuaded to accept hospitality. There we sat for hours, Inna, a great name, along with Babushka's granddaughters, over tea and phonograph melodies. I led her home, and her mother offered tea for the following day. When I returned, the meeting was ridiculous in the small-town life. Inna was a girl superior in darkness like her mother, with Mac never leaving her side, standing guard for hours. In the evening, Inna recounted. As a recruit in the opera youth, she joined a Jewish editor from the Moscow workshop in printing for a wedding, under the Stalin-Hitler non-aggression pact. Her husband was among the deviants on the political line, spoken of to only a few intimates, sent to Siberia in 12 hours. His wife found the opera unacceptable, surviving on music lessons for food. With the German advance on Moscow at full speed, the girl fled to her mother. The returned politician was not freed, an unreliable element. I owe much to Inna, she said, showing an error. It was best to avoid Russian-German cooperation. Then, minor officials granted freedoms, deciding on the front for civil administration. A strict curfew was imposed on civilians after dusk. No sabotage or partisans at that time. Soviets often crossed the frozen Azov on motor or wind sleds, attacking lonely stations and scattering terror in the city with wild rifle fire. One night before midnight, a knock at the window, we grabbed our arms and opened it. Inna, cold and excited, with a large package. What is it? I pulled it inside. The Bolsheviks are surrounding Taganrog at dawn, slaughtering everyone. Brothers' clothes from the dead for you. Hurry across the Azov to Mariupol. I was silent. And the centurions, how? Garrisons reporting to majors. She laughed. They fucked them, passed right by. Thanks, Inna. It's not so grave. Sambek is urgent, but the line holds. Whether it does or not, we don't abandon comrades. It's all or none. Not all of brother's clothes, she said with a little sob, then quieted. The pressure increased in the morning. It held firm. Rare were the Soviet treasures of black value, greater sacrifice. Through the centurion's danger or months of hoarded treasures. In the evening, Gregory appeared, a frozen Azov red deserter. The squad was without a hewer, and Gregory spoke passable German, an expert on machines. The biting cold was loading the workshops. I, as platoon leader and cohort leader, closed my eyes while retaining him. Gregory was a middle-aged 40-year-old, taciturn and focused on his work. Vehicle's health was his domain. In the evening, I led him to hospitality. Tea and vodka loosened his tongue. Ukrainians have always sought freedom. History is blood and tears. A vast land like a bear's honeycomb. Poles, Turks, Russians. Catherine II's systematic Russification. Lithuania and Finland as portions. Ukraine stripped of everything, ethnic language and literature banned. In the Great War, many hoped for Paul Skoropadsky, the Central Council. Dreams vanished, and Bolshevism from Moscow sought to seat itself in Ukraine. With the collapse of Germany and Austria, Simon Petlura was the last chance for freedom. White Denikin imposed Russification over freedom, and divisions between Red and Ukrainian fought each other. Lenin promised rights for minorities, nothing for Ukrainians. The Ukrainian element was strong in parties, and the army after victory over the Poles. Then the Purge. 10,000 leaders, communists, officials, and specialists, all only Ukrainians, were killed. To me, months have passed, and the Germans have no Ukrainian cohorts. Do you want that? I blushed. It will come. Calm yourself, Gregory. People do not live on bread and meat alone. A flag is needed. Give it to the Ukrainians, and you will never regret it. He rose, excusing his talkativeness. The leaders understand. It doesn't look good. We remained thoughtful after he left.